Welcome back to the latest episode of Commerce and Chill. I'm Jessica Johnson Cope.
I'm Waleed.
Hey, Waleed, how are you?
Good, and you, Jess? How's it going?
Good. So welcome. If this is your first time visiting with us, Commerce and Chill is a podcast where we talk about our amazing adventures as entrepreneurs, small business owners, husband and wife, and just all things life. It's that very interesting intersection that we talk about here. So thanks for stopping by. And for those who've stopped by before and decided to come back, well, we really appreciate you. Welcome back.
Subscribe, please.
Subscribe, please.
Click the bell.
What's up, Chief? What made you want to talk about risk today?
Because we take risks every day. It's really about what do you do, or when you don't take those risks, like how does it impact you?
Right.
Right. But if you decide to take the risk, how could it pay off for you also?
Right.
So what kind of risks are you taking?
Well, I'm going to take it a step back because, in case you don't know, I'm a fan of words. I love language. And
Definition, Urban Dictionary, here it comes.
I looked up the etymology of risk.
Etymology, what is that?
Yes, it tells you where the word comes from. What are the origins of the word?
Sounds like something with food.
So risk is from the French 16th centuries when it was first noted, from the French word risque or Italian word rischio, which means run into danger.
Yeah, I do that every day.
Do that every day, like a fireman on the job.
Running into danger. It's part of building a business, running a business.
I took it a step further and looked up the definition in Merriam-Webster. So when you use risk as a noun, there are two definitions that stood out. The possibility of loss or injury, peril.
Okay.
Or someone or something that creates or suggests a hazard.
Okay.
And then when used as a verb, there are two definitions: to expose to hazard or danger, or to incur the risks or dangers. And you can't use the word in a definition. So to incur the danger. So basically, when I'm reviewing the definition and the etymology, running into danger, what we do every day as entrepreneurs, as small business owners, is the core at the core of the definition of the word risk.
Okay, so tell me about some risks that you're taking with JSB, and how they paid off or how they didn't pay off, and you adjusted.
So if this is your first time, JSB is short for Johnson Security Bureau. That's the security business that we run together. Our other business is the SoapBox.
TSB. Notice the correlations there.
TSB and JSB. And so we do take risk every day. More recently, our risk have been in providing services, essential services for security needs of our clients in light of the pandemic. I mean, it's risky just going out the house because nobody really knows anything.
Risky breathing these days.
This is true.
Somebody got a mask for me? Are we 6 feet apart?
I don't know.
Make sure somebody put 6 feet between us on the video.
That'll be interesting. Look on the video. And so navigating the uncertainty of coronavirus is a risk in and of itself, right? Because I've been reading lots of studies. You can go back and look at a previous episode, COVID versus Black businesses. And we talked about some of the challenges that businesses like ours, we're certified as a minority and woman-owned business, are facing during the pandemic in terms of contracting opportunities, in terms of getting employees to go to work, in terms of cash flow, cash management, and in terms of staying open in spite of some of the government mandated closures, right? And so those are very big risks that we have to figure out either how to mitigate or how to deal with them and reimagine and innovate in order to run the business. So continuing to stay open during COVID is, to me, a big risk, because it'd be very easy for us to say, you know what, we just want to sit at home. So that's one level of risk. What about on the laundry side, Chief?
Wow. It's always a risk. It's a risk when we hire a new team member. We hire a new driver and we say, hey, we're going to open up a new route. There's a risk that people won't place orders. And then we got a team member sitting around, not driving, not picking up orders. So now it's just a straight expense.
Just give them another example of a business risk at the SoapBox.
So I'll give you one at JSB.
Okay.
So we hiring for some new positions because we got some new projects coming online. So we need to hire quite a few people. And there's one gentleman who proceeds to talk about how at his previous employers, you know, he did what he needed to do in all his in his roles, and then he helped out doing other stuff, but he was never given the opportunity to say he could move up or become a supervisor. So in that scenario, I took a risk and I told him, I was like, listen, the position you applied for, you know, we're really interested, but as we were going forward, in the middle of it, I just came up with an idea in my head about a location we're having some issues at, and they could use some extra attention from someone in a supervisory capacity. So in that moment, I took the risk and was like, you've been passed over for this, and today it stops. Mm-hmm. So immediately in my head, I created a new position where he would add value to. I'm not just creating a position to say you're hired and then they're just going to be sitting around twiddling their thumbs. I'm not trying to waste resources like that, and you shouldn't do it for your business either. But he took a risk by investing his time and energy and coming to meet with us over a numerous amount of times, when he could have easily just said, I'll go somewhere else and do whatever.
Right.
And then we took a risk by investing that time in him. And then I took a bigger risk saying, I'm going to put you in this position to go make a difference at that location.
I think it's interesting that we talk about risk in light of owning a security company, right?
Oh.
Because in security, oftentimes we're hired to address potential risk,
mitigate
or
identified
risk. I mean, that's the whole purpose of security. And so in preparation for today's discussion, did some research about what some of the biggest risks for small business owners are. And according to a somewhat dated post from QuickBooks parent company's Intuit, these are the 5 biggest risks small business owners face. Number 1, damage to your reputation. And that can come in the form of 2 things. It can be competitors, it could be employees, former employees. But now with people using the internet more often and social media, it's very easy for them to make remarks about your brand, to try in efforts to try to damage your reputation. Number 2 is lawsuits. And in our you may have recently heard us talk about the virtual day, Capitol Hill Day, when we were talking about PPP, and some of our requests were of our senators.
Can we get some more PPP going for businesses?
PPP. But one of the things that we asked for is if there could be a liability shield for small business owners, because as we take the risk of opening our businesses back, bringing people back, and starting to provide services again, with so many uncertainties, the likelihood of people trying to sue business owners is probably going to be greater. And so lawsuits are something that small business owners have to protect themselves against. Number 3 is security breaches. And this is largely as it relates to data. So if you have any customer data, or if you have any exposure online, there's a risk that someone could break into your system and use your data, steal your data. So security breaches is number 3 on the list. Number 4 are acts of God. So depending on where you live, you may be more likely to experience acts of God, which will adversely affect your business, especially a small business. So if you live in Florida along the coast, if you live in California along near a fault line, there are just some places that are more apt to be struck and impacted by acts of God than other places. But that doesn't mean that if you don't live in an area that's normally affected, that you won't ever feel the impact. Because some people might say that COVID-19 is an act of God.
I'm sure the insurance people
even
are
though the
saying
insurance people don't acknowledge that. And then the last one that's the biggest risk for small business owners is that of illness, death, or disability. Oftentimes when it comes to business and you hear risk, it's associated with insurance.
Just in case something happens.
Right? So that there's some financial link to what risk you're exposed to, and the insurance companies have all these actuarial tables that are calculated to determine how much you should pay so that you can cover. And trust and believe, whatever you pay, shout out to all my insurance family out there, whatever you pay it's still going to be more than what you ever get back.
What can we get for $1?
Well, $1 will get you this fake gag dollar.
But in case of emergency, you may need to break glass. So, you
Get a big hammer.
talk to your financial advisors, talk to your insurance advisors, and make sure that you have adequate insurance to cover the potential risk that you face. I know with our business on the security side, we spend a lot. How much?
A lot
of money on insurance.
Labor and insurance, the two biggest line
There
items.
you go. Because
Just in case.
our people are on the front line of what happens at client facilities. And so clients expect us to have general liability coverage. They expect us to have excess liability coverage, auto insurance, commercial auto insurance, unowned, non-owned,
I don't even know what
hired,
half this insurance is. Not owned, unhired liability.
employer.
Just in case your employee's crazy insurance. Just in case you do something crazy insurance.
Pretty much.
Just in case you got insurance for your insurance. Just in case your insurance don't have insurance for your insurance.
Right. So know that as a small business operator, as a business operator at all, you're going to be exposed to risk, but you want to make sure that you cover as many of those exposures as possible. And you talk to knowledgeable people that can help keep you covered. So that's my little 2 cents.
Yeah, I guess you answered the question I was going to ask you, because I was like, out of those 5 things Intuit said, what could a small business owner do to mitigate one of those risks? Like, I'm so tired.
I'll start at the top of the list.
But
right?
you already said
so
one. You
wait,
said they could get insurance and all this. So you answered the question before I could even ask it. She's reading my notes.
I'm not reading your notes in that bright blue. But another thing that you can do, and I always stress this, is control your narrative, right? So even if your competitors, even if your employees, your former employees are out there to damage your reputation, if you get ahead of that and you tell your story more than they can, it almost doesn't matter. The Cope always talks about creating content. So if you're consistently creating content about your brand, about your business, about your products and services, then when these people come out the woodwork talking crazy, it'll just be like a gnat. It'll just be annoying, but it won't have as much of an impact.
I'm a small business owner in Bed-Stuy, just trying to grow my business and work with other small, businesses to grow together.
The best type of revenge is success. So give that. One other thing is, this week, my church is in revival. And I know you're probably like, dang, this girl's always talking about church.
Last time she talked about, I don't know, Adam and Eve and something.
Marvelous Marriage Mondays.
Yeah, here we go. All right, let's go.
That's how you take some of the risk out of your relationship.
Can we get some Bibles in the podcast and some props in here?
But we're currently in revival at my church. And so one of the guest pastors was preaching the other day and talked about risk. And the one line he said is,
snatchers. In the book Men to Men, Henry Lee Allen observes that many of the most successful people or organizations have either failed many times, took several risks, or a combination of both before they reached success and achievement. Allen goes on in the book to define risk as having the faith to attempt something new or different, even though it might be hard or lead to failure.
In your business, when you take risk, don't take risk recklessly. Think about your end game and then make the appropriate decisions. That's my 2 cents on.
I mean, but suppose you want to be reckless is being part of being risky. Suppose you just
reckless
want
and risky are not.
How do they define being reckless?
I didn't look that up. Let me see.
No, I mean, how did the pastor or in the revival at the church, they were talking about Christian don't be reckless, or Christians, what do you say?
That risk is not reckless, because recklessness requires little or no forethought. In contrast, those who take risks are aware that they face enormous obstacles to achievement. Those who are willing to take the risks, in other words, know what they are facing in the midst of the risks they are taking, but they always take the risks because they firmly believe that the reward is always worth the effort.
So when we take risk, we're not recklessly taking those risks.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, some would say that marriage is a risk. It's a risky proposition.
It absolutely is a
And
risk.
there are a lot of people that walk around talking about, I'm never going to get married because, she could leave me or whatever. He could take all my money or whatever.
Half of zero is still zero. But yeah, so risk. I mean, everything's a risk. Like I cross the street when I leave here, it's a risk. I open the door, it's a risk. Like a plane could fall out of the sky and land on me. Boom, I'm dead. It's a risk.
You know how they often say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah. But
Same thing in relationships. Like,
I'm not disagreeing,
there's
but some
people
things
that
you
don't
just
take the time to say,
just can't
I want
plan
my
for it. It just
I want
happens.
my relationship to be successful.
How many
And
people would you
success
say write these big?
This.
How many times? How many people would you say write these big elaborate business plans?
There are a lot of people with business plans.
And then they sit on the shelf and they don't even really go back and look at them. But they spend all that time. I'm planning for 20 years from now. Like I don't know what's going to be going on 20 years from now.
I'm sure there are more people that write the volumes of business plans and don't execute. I would dare say there are probably more people that write this voluminous business plan and don't execute as opposed to somebody that drafts something simple on the back of a napkin, gets to work, and then just makes changes on the fly.
So would you agree that some people get so caught up in trying to write the business plan because they think it's going to be this sexy thing, or it shows that I'm putting all this work into this document that's going to somehow translate into me having this big successful business, versus just saying, I'm just going to sketch out a couple bullet points and here's the main things that need to be done and then go take action?
I agree. Yes, that does happen oftentimes.
Yes.
But the other thing you have to keep in mind is one of the risks of relying too much on a business plan is not being able to account for potential changes in the marketplace.
Absolutely. I dare someone to show me one business plan that had COVID in it in their 10-year, 15, 20-year plan. Name one. Somebody DM me, email me a business plan that you created 4, 5, 10 years ago, and part of your business plan said COVID. If you show me one, respect. Sorry. I just couldn't resist. I had to get that out.
Okay.
But you should have a plan. I'm not disagreeing with you. The question is, how much do you put into that plan?
I don't care how much you put into the plan. That's your
versus
business.
just
I'm saying
planning out something and then go take the risk.
I'm saying, yeah.
Back of the napkin. Go take the risk.
Is there anything else you want to add about risk taking, Mr. Cope?
I think you should take risks. You should take a healthy amount of risk in your life, but you should figure out how averse to risk you are. So I have no idea. I'm sure there's probably something if you Google it out there, but there's like some risk-o-meter. That's what we're going to call it. Risk assessment. That's it. We're going to create one, and for the low price of $9.99, you can take our risk assessment and download our risk assessment ebook. Right. But take some risks. Like, life is about tasting different things, but stay within, and I don't even want to say stay within your comfort zone, but stay within your tolerable zone. Like, don't push the envelope. Take baby steps. Like, start in the kiddie end of the pool and then slowly go to the deeper end while you hold on to the edge.
So in closing, just know that risk is a part of everyday life, especially in business and in relationships. We encourage you to take the risk because we take the risk every day. Know that. What?
I just got a text. We just closed the deal. I took a risk and now it's paying off. Sorry, you were wrapping things up.
So yeah, use data to address potential risk, and in your business, you can always look to your financial advisors, your insurance advisors to help you address the largest business risk. And then in life and relationships, step out, taste different things, and don't be afraid to try new things with new people before you quit, because that's the way that you're going to grow and expand and find that person that you're ultimately supposed to be Mr. and Mrs. Risk with.
There you go. Thanks for taking a risk, Jay.
Thanks for taking my risk in return. So with that being said, thank you for spending your time and risking being on the receiving end of some
Commerce
interesting information.
You risk it 30, 40 minutes watching this, and we appreciate it.
Of Commerce and Chill podcast. We welcome you to subscribe, press the like button, give us a review. 5 stars is always good. Tell your mama, tell your granny, tell your auntie and them, and show them how to download the podcast so that they can listen to past episodes.
Just stream it for them. Don't even let them download it. It burns up too much memory.
Too.
You don't waste the memory on
You
your
can
phone.
do that too. And we hope to come back next week with some more interesting conversations.
Hit the bell.
Great topics. And that's a wrap. Thanks. We're out. Gotta go back and finish my virtual boule. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm out. Pink and green love. Peace.
Did you see the pinky thing? We're out.